But those people of virtuous deeds whose sin has come to an end, freed from these twin delusions, worship me with determination. These last few verses deal with the last topic, the seventh topic, the wise get liberated. Verses 28 to 30. So what is he saying here? Punya karmanam. There are two kinds of actions that you can do, punya and papa. So what is punya? Punya is introverted actions which result in the reduction of desires or vasanas. Papa is extroverted activities which result in further adding to your stock of desires or vasanas which agitate your mind. Therefore it's called papa. Sin is not something that happens when you act. Mostly, colloquially, we refer to sin as a particular action. One action is sinful, one action is virtuous. No, it's not that. Sin is mental agitations. When you commit any action, and that action boomerangs back on you as mental agitation, boomerangs back on you as another desire, then it is papa, because it takes you away from Atman. Any action that is introverted, which reduces your desires, takes you towards Atman, and therefore it is called punya. So the sin comes to an end when vasanas end, and vasana comes to an end when you perform punya karmanam, virtuous deeds. And then what happens? Then you get freed from these twin delusions of the pairs of opposites which arise because of ichha and dvesha, likes and dislikes. So the enemies lie within you, and the enemies are your own likes and dislikes. So therefore, what you must do is this propulsion or likes and dislikes directly propelling you to action must be changed to the likes and dislikes getting scanned by the intellect, and then you perform action based on the wisdom of the intellect and not the impulse of the like and dislike. That's not that difficult. This is the first step. So the next time you feel like doing something, stop, consult your intellect, and then do it if the intellect says so. If the intellect does not sanction it, you must have the strength of your conviction to stop that activity. So, and then he says, worship me with determination, dridhavrataha. All achievers in any field of activity have achieved whatever they've achieved because of this consistency, determination, firm resolve. However brilliant you are, if you perform sporadic actions, it's of no use. So, worship me with determination. The key word here is dridhavrataha, consistent application. Verse 29.
Jara marana mokshaya mamashritya yatanti ye te brahma tadviduh krusnam adhyatmam karma chakhilam.
Those who, taking shelter in me, strive for liberation from old age and death, jara marana mokshaya. They know Brahman, Adhyatma, and all karma in their entirety. So, with this verse, he starts the preparation for chapter 8, which hopefully we'll do next year. And chapter 8 deals with these three concepts, Brahman, Adhyatma, and karma. So, what is he saying here? Jara means old age. You know, the term geriatrics came from the word jara. Jara marana mokshaya. So, old age and death means change. And the sorrow that comes from change. You see, it's not only old age and death that gives sorrow, it is every change. Any change gives sorrow. What we want is a constancy externally in the world. That will never happen. The constancy has to be developed within. Once you develop this inner constancy, then even old age and death don't affect you. So old age and death is not just to be taken literally, but all changes. The 5 metamorphic changes of birth, growth, disease, decay, and death, every change gives trouble. Growth is painful. Birth, of course, is painful. Nobody is ever born laughing. We're all born crying. Growth, teenage years are traumatic years, and adulthood is traumatic. Every change is traumatic. Then, of course, decay, disease, and death are, of course, traumatic. But who strive for liberation from this, when you understand that as long as you live, you will be subject to these changes. And all that you can do is shift to Atman. And once you identify with Atman, Atman is not subject to any of these changes. So you identify with Atman and enjoy the changes that are taking place objectively. Such people take refuge in me, taking shelter in me. They turn introvert and follow the practices of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. And then they discover this changeless, immortal substratum which is supporting all activities. Then he says, you'll realize Kritstam, you'll realize the entirety. You see, why we're getting disturbed is because we only know a little bit of what's happening. You don't know the entirety. The moment you understand the entirety, you understand this is a beautiful pattern that's going on. It's not chaos. There's a beautiful design to everything that's happening. Just because you happen to be at a particular stage, it gives you suffering, sorrow. So when you know things in the entirety, they stop bothering you. What is the entirety? Brahman, macrocosm. Adhyatmam, microcosm. Karma, gunas. And gunas are the reflecting medium. It's like this. The mighty sun above can be compared to Brahman. And then the individual rays of the sun can be equated to Adhyatmam, Atmam. There's no difference between individual rays and the sun, but it's a difference in terms of point of reference. And then these sun's rays come and hit a reflecting medium, and when they are reflected, then you see, right? So the reflecting medium is the gunas. There are different reflecting media in the world. There is a dewdrop which reflects a minuscule, small, tiny sun. There is the mighty ocean that reflects the huge sun. There is a corrugated mirror, that rough surface which reflects a distorted sun. There is a smooth surface that reflects a perfect sun. All these reflecting media are different, and because the reflecting medium is different, you see plurality, you see diversity. So the moment a reflection takes place, whenever there is a reflecting medium, the reflected sun loses its original properties and takes to the properties of the reflecting medium. So this mighty sun, which is, I don't know, 50,000 degrees centigrade, reflected in a dewdrop, becomes powerless, no energy, no light, little thing. So it takes to the properties of the reflecting medium. When you understand this about human beings, you don't get carried away by the gunas, you don't get affected by the gunas, you don't get traumatized by the qualities. You're able to see through, you understand these are the gunas separate from the original identity of the person, which is Atman. And what a relief it gives you. Then you're able to deal with, you're able to achieve that state of samam and sarvabhuta hite rataha. Because it doesn't matter to you what the gunas are. Just as when you understand the mighty sun, it doesn't make a difference whether the reflection is in a dewdrop or in a lake or an ocean or a distorted mirror. Whenever you see a reflected sun, you know it's that mighty sun above. You don't identify with the reflecting medium. And if you're able to live this in your life, if you're able to assimilate it and operate on it when you are dealing with human beings. What a relief. You remember we saw one slide where it says your interactions with the world will be completely free from friction. Only when you are able to separate. 30, the last verse.
साधिभूताधिदैवं मां साधियज्ञं च ये विदुः प्रयाणकालेऽपि च मां ते विदुर्युक्तचेतसः.
Those who know me along with Adhibhuta, presiding over elements, Adhidaiva, presiding over gods, and Adhiyajna, presiding over sacrifice, they of steadfast mind know me even at the time of death. So now he is giving an assurance that all of us are going to meet with death at some time or the other. And at that point, you have to leave behind everything, your wealth, your name, your position, your status, your assets, your acquisitions, even your family members, and proceed where you don't know. But there is one thing that you carry along with you, and that is your spiritual assets. That's what he's saying here. They of steadfast mind know me even at the time of death. So even if you haven't reached the state of realization, a certain level of development that you have achieved, you carry that forward and you are born in the next life exactly with the same assets. Now, what an unintelligent life we need. First of all, we don't know when we are going to meet with death. And when we meet with death, we know we can't take any of this. And yet 100% of our energies, our time, our resources are used in what? Acquiring worldly things which you can't carry forward. So what he's saying is, along with all this that you're doing, invest a little bit of your time and effort in acquiring spiritual assets which you can carry forward. Prayana kale, even at the time of death. Then he says, te viduhu, ye viduhu, te viduhu. What must you understand? He says, adhibhuta, lower prakriti. He's summarizing this chapter. You remember in the beginning, we started with an analysis of the world. Lower prakriti, the 5 elements, which means gross matter, subtle matter, physical body, mind, intellect, and ego. Adhidaiva is subtle body concerning gods. Adhiyajna is the Atman, the higher prakriti. You remember he then goes into a description. It's Sutre Manigana iva. It is like the thread through which pearls are strung. That substratum on which this entire universe is projected, that is Adhiyajna. So matter is Brahman, spirit is Brahman, the individual is also Brahman. So you reach that state where whatever you see, whether it is matter, individual, or spirit per se, you understand all 3 are nothing but Brahman. Then he says, ye viduhu, te viduhu. He who understands, understands. What must you understand? It's like looking at a person who doesn't understand anything. He sees ice and believes that is different from liquid water, is different from steam. So he sees separateness. But you and I know that ice is also H2O, water is also H2O, steam is also H2O. Their properties are different. Their manifestation is different. But essentially, chemically, all 3 are the same. Ye viduhu, te viduhu. One who knows, knows. Even at the time of death, they know me. So the investment of thought and energies has to be long before death. You can't say, okay, when this is what people think. What are you doing when you're young? Why are you studying the Gita? When you're in your deathbed, you can think. But it doesn't happen. Because at the deathbed, you will think only of that which you have thought during your lifetime. You know, there was a lawyer, a very conjuice lawyer. who wanted to acquire wealth all the time. And then he got a terminal disease, so he told his wife, he said, go to the bank and withdraw all the money, all my assets into cash, put them in bags and keep them in the attic, so that when I die, on my way to heaven, I'll carry it with me. And the poor man went through his disease and died, and the wife was most distraught. 6 months after his death, she was upstairs in the attic clearing up things. Suddenly she discovered all this money lying there. She had assumed that this man must have carried the money with him. Then she understood, I made a terrible mistake. I should have kept these bags in the basement so that on the way to hell he would have carried it with him. This is it. So, where do you begin? How do you begin? You begin with the 3 practices of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. You begin by giving. You remember that receptionist, hospital receptionist we spoke of? 15 years ago, she gave 2,000 rupees to a gentleman. And how much did she get back? 7 lakhs. What an investment. Similarly, friends, keep investing, keep giving. When we say giving, we're not speaking of unintelligent giving. You must fix a higher ideal and pour out your energies towards that. Act in a spirit of giving at all times, and by God, you'll get it back. We come to the end of the chapter. Om Tat Sat
Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Jnana Vijnana Yogo Nama Saptamodhyayaha.
As is the tradition, when we conclude a chapter, we believe that we have only begun our study and not ended it. So all of us together, to signify that our study has begun, we will chant the first verse of the chapter together once.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayaha Asaushayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasyasi Tachrunu.
Now, at the end of the Gita, 18th chapter, the last verse, Sanjaya speaks towards the end. Sanjaya is the commentator. He's telling the blind king Dhritarashtra all the happenings that are taking place in Kurukshetra. So he gets so inspired with this entire message that Krishna has given Arjuna that he goes into raptures. And the last verse, he gives a promise to all of us. And he says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, wherever there is a Krishna, who is the master of yoga. Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, wherever there is an eager student, an active, dynamic young person. Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. Sanjaya says, there will be prosperity, Shri, there will be victory, Vijaya. There will be, what else? Shri Vijayo Bhuti, there will be glory, and there will be justice.